Once I had good chance to behold Sister Gargi, that is Marie Louise Bark, the great disciple of Swami Ashokananda, who wrote at least 3 volumes of Swami Vivekananda in the West in 3 volumes at least. Being inspired by her in latter days, Sri ASHIM CHAUDHURI, a great fact finder, disciple of Ramakrishna order, who prepared a great book, Swami Vivekananda in America, New Findings. That book has come to me right now through courier, although it was published in 2008 and I heard about it, a lot of it, but I am getting a chance now to read the author's preface on the book today as the first installment. Then I want to submit it to YouTube for the interest of many of us like. So let me read the introduction by the author in the Swami Vivekananda in America, the New Finding by ASHIM CHAUDHURI. There was essentially 2 reasons behind Swamiji's mission to the West. First, it was his hope to improve the material condition of the Indian masses through financial help from the West. Second, it was to fulfill his master prophecy that Swamiji would spread Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual message, the message of Vedanta, all over the world. Though he subsequently abandoned the idea of raising funds in the West, his plan to deliver his master's message remained intact. Chicago will always be associated with Swami Vivekananda because through the portals of the city he entered the world. Swami Vivekananda in Chicago, New Findings, a predecessor to this book, was written primarily to emphasize that point and that the city was his home away from home. Details about his wanderings in other parts of US were deliberately omitted, thus leaving the possibility for a sequel. This book happens to be that sequel. Source materials for this book were collected over a period of time. A couple of years after publication of the first book, I took early retirement to follow Swamiji's footprints in other parts of the US outside Chicago and its vicinity. But before crystallizing my findings in black and white and also in color, I wanted to see if there was enough interest among the admirers of Vivekananda for such a book. The feedback I received convinced me to plunge into writings the second book, Swami Vivekananda in America, New Findings. If the readers see a general similarity between this book and Sister Gargi's 6 volumes of Swami Vivekananda in the West, New Discoveries, they will be entirely correct. This book, however, does not include Swamiji's European sojourn. So I was, this present reader, a little mistaking. Sister Gargi wrote 6 volumes as New Discoveries, not 3, 6. So I continue my reading. There are major differences, however. This book is shorter mainly for 2 reasons. I have referred to Sister Gargi's volumes, the complete works, and the life for a multitude of newspaper reports, articles, letters, and other information. And this book deals with Swamiji's visit to the US only. This is also more time, place, person focused. There are a liberal number of photographs for people to identify places associated with Swamiji. The chapters in this book have been organized by states, and the states appear chronologically according to his first visit to it. That done, all his wanderings in a particular state have been documented chronologically in the chapter dedicated to that state. This is intended to give the residents of the state or the visitors to it a chance to trace Swamiji's footprints in their neighborhood. It also contains a host of new findings and additional information that were unearthed after Sister Gargi had written her volumes. Although with the benefits, there are at least 2 problems I have encountered organizing Swamiji's visit state by state that the readers will no doubt discover as they turn the pages. First, the overall calendar continuity is lost when there are multiple visits to one state. Although it is mentioned where Swamiji went out of the state on a specific date, readers may find it hard to move to another chapter and pick up his trail there. Second, a person who has been introduced in one chapter, that is state, may have been taken for granted in another. Whenever I could, I have tried to introduce a person when he or she is mentioned for the first time in a chapter and refer to the chapter when the person appears again later in another chapter. But I don't claim infallibility in this regard. Although I don't consider this a problem, I hope that my rigorous attention to dates and other details has not robbed the book of spontaneity. I wrote this book as a sequel of Swami Vivekananda in Chicago New Findings for 2 reasons. First, to stress the point that there is no end to tracing Swamiji's footprints. Those had reached far beyond Chicago, actually all the way from Maine to California, diagonally across the entire country. Second, like the previous one, this book has also pays specific attention to the homes, places and buildings associated with Swamiji that can still be identified after more than 100 years. I sincerely hope the book can inspire his admirers to remember him and those places. Those who are not familiar with the name Swami Vivekananda, I hope this book will show them how one mendicant monk from India contributed to the culture, heritage, and the history of the richest and most powerful nation in the world. Although this book may be considered a sequel to my previous book, it is not designed to pick up where the other left off. Rather, its contents can be inserted chronologically between the pages of the previous book to make the consolidation a complete chronicle of Swamiji's wanderings in US. He, as far as we know, visited 15 states, 16 if we consider a short visit, private visit to Newport, Rhode Island, and Washington DC, illustrations, Washington DC, Illinois, and Indiana have been covered in my previous book. This cover the rest. Nothing is more exciting than solving mysteries associated with mysteries associated with Swamiji. The two major ones in America were the case of the mystery couple in Chicago and the mystery of the 12th student at Thousand Island Park. The first mystery was solved in my first book, Swami Vivekananda in Chicago, New Findings. This book has the solution to the second one. Few other mini mysteries like who was Miss Spencer in Los Angeles, Swamiji's Medford and Stockton visits, Bridgie Meadows 1 and 2, his host in Baltimore, etc., have been solved as well between the pages of this book. Many unrepublished items such as reports on his lectures, book reviews, and comments from various newspapers and other have also been included without mentioning them as such in every instance. To familiarize the reader with the states and side cities Swamiji visited, I have shamelessly drawn from the historical information provided by the various cities, states and other sources. This information, mostly posted on websites or advertised in brochures and pamphlets, are difficult to cite as references. I hope those responsible for providing that information will consider my use of their material a fair use. My objective was not to narrate history, but for the sake of it, but to put Swami Vivekananda's visits in historical perspective. I have used the American style of spelling throughout this book for two reasons. First, after living in US for 40 years, living in US for 40 years, I have virtually forgotten the English style. Second, the most of the quoted materials in the book are from American sources. The original spellings from non-American sources, however, remain unaltered. I owe a debt of gratitude to a number of people and institutions who helped me in my endeavor for facilitating my research as I crisscross the US. I am grateful to Topon Dotto, Riya Guho, and the Vedanta societies in Boston, New York, Hollywood, San Francisco, Chicago, and Maryland, that is Greater Washington DC. The officials at various public institutions also have been very generous in providing information and other assistance. Those who helped me with the information related to the people and places touched by Swami Vivekananda and deserve special mention are Joseph Pedil, Ellen D. Lala, Eric Holcomb, Ellen Lipsey, Michael Bowden, Catherine Rollins, Jack Simpson, Rosne Adams, James Montgomery, Dorothy Harrington, and Shirley Chipman. I am indebted to Peter Schneider and John Schneider for editing some parts of the manuscript, but I owe a monumental debt to Brinda Gupta for editing The Lion's Share. Dr. Gordon Stavic, Gopal also has been very helpful for bringing to my attention various incidents involving Swamiji and providing me with the relevant documents. Finally, I would like to thank my children Miki and Onurita for supporting me in my work. I am affectionately grateful to my wife Nandita for facilitating my travel, for putting up with my being away from home for extended periods, and for bearing with my spending innumerable hours in front of the computer while at home. She also helped with editing the final manuscript. Last but not the least, I owe special debt of gratitude to His Holiness Swami Gahanananda, President of the Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission, for writing the foreword, and to Swami Bodho Sarananda, President of the Advaita Ashram, for his kind advice and encouragement in bringing this effort to fruition. January 12, 2007, Phoenix, Arizona, USA. Written by ASHIM Chaudhuri, the author of this book. Prologue. I am simply reading the prologue of the book to start with. Swami Vivekananda's life prior to his historical journey to America is well known. He left Bombay on May 31st, 1893, in his way to Chicago to attend the Parliament of Religions to be held there from September 11 to September 27. He was hoping to use the Parliament as a springboard to launch a two-pronged mission in the West, to improve the material condition of the Indian masses through technical and financial help from the West, and to fulfill his master prophecy about spreading the message of Vedanta. The two-pronged mission can be visualized as one: bartering Indian spiritualism for Western scientific and technical expertise. After touching Colombo, Penang, Singapore, Hong Kong, Nagasaki, Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, Kobe, and Yokohama. Along the way, Swamiji reached Vancouver on July 25. He spent the night aboard the ship and took the Canadian Pacific Railway to Chicago. The next morning, the Divine Master Plan clicked on during this trip when he met Kate Sanborn on the train, the details of which will be covered in the following chapter. She gave him her card and invited him to her home in Metcalfe, Massachusetts. Swamiji arrived in Chicago, Illinois on July 30, 1893, and after spending a day or two at a downtown hotel, spent the next few days as a house guest of Erskine Mason Phelps, a wealthy shoe merchant and a director of the World's Columbian Exposition. In the footnote of the first page of the prologue, it is written, Swamiji's visits to the Illinois and Indiana have been covered earlier in Swami Vivekananda in Chicago, New Findings, a book by the present author. This book, therefore, does not contain the details of his sojourn in Illinois and India. I continue reading. Phelps were the high society couple he was introduced to by Baroda Rao from Madras. While staying with the Phelps, Swamiji paid multiple visits to the World's Fair and learned some stark facts about the Parliament of Religions he had come to attend. He found out that the Parliament would not convene until the second week of September and that no one would be admitted without proper credentials. He was not comfortable staying with the Phelps, did not have enough money left to sustain himself elsewhere in Chicago until the Parliament started, and he had no credentials. Disappointed and distraught, he decided to leave Chicago and go to Kate Sanborn's house in Metcalfe, Massachusetts. Swamiji was not very sure what the future held for him at this point. Here, the concluding portion of prologue. Namo Sri Jyotirajaya Vivekananda Suraya Satchit Sukha Sarupayo Shamine Tapoharine Om Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.